Welcome to Agencies Talk. This is Digital Marketer's weekly talk show with agency professionals. I'm Cameron Miller, Digital Marketer's production assistant and content coordinator. As a reminder, if you're able to, please turn on your cameras so that we can see your smiling faces. Again, this is more than just a show, it's a meeting. So please do your best to get involved with insightful questions and other input if you have it. If you do have questions, please use the Q&A tool down at the bottom here in Zoom. For any other comments, please feel free to engage in the chat. We always love to see you guys having fun and engaging in there. This episode will be posted online within 24 hours, so stay tuned for that if you guys want to rewatch it. With that said, we have a special treat for you guys today. We have a guest host filling in for Digital Marketer's president, Mark de Grasse. Please join me in welcoming certified partner and faculty member, Etan Polinger, as he will be your guest host for today. Etan is an ex-Special Forces medic, certified master of persuasion, and a huge contributor to the Digital Marketer Community and has been featured on our podcast, website, videos, and even been to a lot of our events. He has also recently been selected to speak at Traffic and Conversion Summit in January 2024 coming up, which is a huge honor, so keep an eye out for him there. Today, he'll be interviewing another certified partner, James Bullis. So with that being said, Etan, please take it away.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Agencies Talk. I'm your guest host, Etan Polinger, like Cameron just said. The goal of Agencies Talk is to explore the latest agency trends and strategies in the industry, experts, and leaders. Each episode unveils the innovations and insights that are reshaping the future of marketing beyond traditional norms. Okay. Today, our guest is James Bullis. James is a professional webmaster and owner of Benton Webmaster Solutions, as well as a Digital Marketer certified partner in the mystical realm of business. James stands as a magical guide with over 25 years of webmastering experience, ready to transform fledgling entrepreneurs into online superstars. With a mission to help individuals conquer fears, discover hidden potential, and find personal fulfillment, James provides exceptional content and the spellbook of hypotheses to uncover prospects, products, and the perfect positioning. And on a personal note, when I heard I was hosting today, I was so excited. But when I heard it was James, I was beyond excited. James is incredible, and I'm super honored and grateful to be here with you. Today, we're going to be talking about the future. So personality-based marketing, unified context, content marketing, and advanced prompting. James, I'll let it go on to you now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. I always forget that I had that introduction written like a while ago with ChatGPT, and it always like blows me away at how nice ChatGPT is to me. I was given this presentation earlier this week, and someone was like, "What's a technomancer?" I was like, "It's another word for wizard, which is what I am." So today I'm going to be talking to you about this thing that I get to do, that I can do because of the way my brain thinks, and that is predicting the future. It's so weird, I know. But really what it is it's all about visually seeing patterns, identifying them, and figuring out a way that you can take advantage of the opportunities that are before you. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I think I might have been sharing it already. I don't know. No, here we go. Okay, good stuff. Let me get this out of the way. Cool. So the presentation is up there live. We're going to be predicting the future by looking into the past. Let me get my clicker working here. All right. So our goal today is to learn how to identify opportunities of the future by understanding how those opportunities in the past were uncovered. And by understanding that pattern, I think that you're going to be able to learn to spot the opportunities and take advantage of them. Now, we're in marketing. We all love Ryan. We love the CVJ and all the stuff that he does. But Ryan was letting us in on a little secret for years on stage when he kept talking about the old books. He said, if you really want to understand marketing, go look at the old books. And like this example from 1983, David Ogilvy, considered the father of modern advertising, wrote Ogilvy on advertising, and it's all about understanding the principles of the consumers, understand the consumers, and crafting compelling messages to them. Just realized I didn't have my presenter view on. There we go. Sweet. Now I can see. Okay. So that was in 1983. In 1966, Eugene Schwartz came out with breakthrough advertising. Eugene Schwartz is considered the father of copywriting. That book, Breakthrough Advertising, first editions of that book sell for over $1,000. And he talks all about tapping into human desires and their psychology and how it's foundational in guiding the way that we do marketing today. And then this is a really interesting book. This is by Claude C. Hopkins. And I remember when Ryan recommended this book, I went back to read it, and everything was just great until I got to this point where he said, if you want to sell more coffee, you got to drag your horse and cart into the town square. And I was like, wait, I don't have a horse and a cart. When was this book written? It was written in 1923. And even back then, he was talking about making data-driven decisions instead of just going on your whim. And so if you think about it, these three books have influenced almost all of the marketing frameworks that we utilize today. And the combination of those things pretty much makes up most of what digital marketer stands for. Now, when new technologies come, it's really easy to think that this is a new framework and has never existed before, right? And so there's a thing called novelty bias. When something is new and it feels new and it's there all the time, like short form videos are all the rage right now, you can get stuck in novelty bias. So the question I have for the audience is, what year do you think that the first short form video ad appeared? I can't see the comments, but if you put it in the comments of what year you think the first short form video ad appeared, I guarantee you, you probably didn't think that it was 1896. And in 1896, the Lumiere brothers, who were very influential in getting video off the ground, filmed this commercial, which you can find on YouTube, of ladies in Switzerland on wash day. And they're using Sunlight soap, a soap that's still around today, but this is considered the very first video ad. And of course, it's short form because it's pretty short. But how cool is that, right? Well, going further than that, I want to share with you the biggest business lesson that I learned on the greatest business website, Ancestry.com. Nobody thinks of Ancestry.com as being a great business one. But when I was doing my research on my ancestry, I came across something really interesting. If you look at this map, this is what the United States looked like in 1845. And you'll notice that California was still a part of Mexico. And in 1845, there was this Mexican army captain. There goes the dogs. There was a Mexican army captain named Andres Costello who was traveling up the coast, and he stopped in to visit this mission, which is Santa Clara Mission. And Santa Clara Mission is right outside of today's San Jose. And this is where like the very first university in California is located. But he stopped in there, and when he did, there were natives around there, and they brought him pieces of this rock. This rock was very important to the natives because they would grind it up and they would pull out this red part of the rock and they would create a pigment out of it. They would use this in painting their faces. They would use it in painting the walls. It was a very integral part of their culture. But Castellero, he was from Spain, and he was a graduate of the Mexican Mining University. And so while the natives looked at this rock and saw red pigment, when he looked at it, he saw quicksilver. This rock is cinnabar, and inside of it, it has what we call today mercury in it. And this is very, very valuable to the world. That cinnabar or that quicksilver that's in there, the only place in the world where you could get it was from a mine in Spain called the Almaden mine. And that's here with the red circle around it. And so the Rothschilds actually had the lease on this mine, and they controlled all of the quicksilver as it goes out into the world. Quicksilver is a necessary, component in mining for gold and silver. And so without that quicksilver, you couldn't pull out the gold and silver out of the sediment. And so if you look here on this map, all along the Chilean coast are all these places where they were delivering this quicksilver to gold mines and silver mines. And Castellero understood what it was, and he realized how valuable it was. And he wanted to see, is there enough there to compete against Almaden? And so he was able to get a land grant. And this is how he processed that cinnabar. What he did was he would have a bed of rocks, and they would build a fire under it, and it would heat up the cinnabar rocks, and the quicksilver inside of it would evaporate and rise up. And he used this whaling pot to capture that evaporation, cool it down, and then be able to get that mercury into a bottle, which they then sold to gold mines and silver mines. And so around this time, the Mexican-American War started, and Castellero knew, being a Mexican citizen, he wasn't going to be able to hold on to this mine if the United States got control of California, which is what we did. And so he sold shares to the Baron Forbes Company, who were located in Mexico. They had been mining for a long time, all up and down along that coast in Mexico and Chile. And so they knew what it took to build a real mine. And so they sold their shares to them. California became a part of the United States, and they officially started the first operating mine in California, getting this quicksilver. That was in 1847 when they took over. And so they had this mine up and running, and now all they need is customers. And wouldn't you know it, just 107 miles away from the quicksilver mine, gold was found. And that was in 1848, and into 1849, people came from the East Coast across the United States to California for the gold rush. Now, this AI thing that we've been talking about for the last few years, it's become evident that it is a gold rush. Everybody's referring to it as a gold rush. And what if you had that corner market on the items that you needed in order to be able to make that gold rush happen? Well, the people at New Almaden Mine, they had a large source of quicksilver that didn't have to come from Spain. They were able to serve up the gold mines right there and actually become more profitable than all the other gold mines combined, because they had the one thing that they needed in order to be able to process the gold. Well, the government had to step in. They tried to seize it during the Civil War era. And what eventually happened in the Supreme Court case is they sold it to a group of East Coast investors, and they started the Quicksilver Mining Company. And what this did was it allowed them to be able to infuse capital. And what that company did was they hired Cornish people. Cornish people have been mining all over the world, well, in Cornwall, since 2000 BC. So for almost 4,000 years, the people of Cornwall were experts in mining. And when they brought them in to this mine, they were able to establish the systems that they used to be able to pull from that mine and be able to process that quicksilver and supply it. So it was a great system. So there's a big lesson here. While the cinnabar was valuable to the Native Americans in that area, someone with a learned knowledge understood the real opportunity that was sitting inside of those rocks. And I think that if you have an expertise and a certain knowledge, you'll be able to see opportunities that can be uncovered with new technology. And so right now for myself, there's 3 opportunities that I've been watching in this new technological era. And those are personality-based marketing, unified context, and then also some advanced prompting. So what do you think of that story? Does that resonate with anybody? Anybody see any value in that story?
That is, every time I sit here, every time I hear you, my mind is blown. That's what a way of connecting that to the wildness of having that one thing that is the gatekeeper of utilizing it in such a better way. That's, yeah.
And it's funny. There are examples of this all throughout history. Have you ever watched the movie Singing in the Rain?
I've a long time ago, I have, yes.
Okay. So I remember growing up, I would hear the songs, I could sing the songs. I never actually knew what the movie was about. And if you've never watched it, I highly recommend it, because the movie, which was produced in the 50s, is about actors and stars from the early 20s who were in silent movies. And something happened in the industry in the 20s. Talkies came out. And so all of a sudden, these stars who were very popular had to learn how to act, how to speak dialogue. They had to hire writers to write the dialogue. Sound studios had to be created. And the movie goes through all these innovations that they try to, in order to make it work. And you could see them fail and fail and fail until they finally got it working the way they need to. And so there's always these examples down through there where something changes the industry and you've got to apply new things. So let's get into some personality-based marketing. I am trained in the Sandler sales method. I got trained in that when I first started. And anybody who's taken Sandler knows that if you can understand your prospect's DISC assessment, you can adjust your presentation to fit that DISC personality in order to get the result that you want. For instance, I'm a high D. If you want to sell me on something, you got to be fast and quick. It's going to take me about 30 seconds to buy, whereas someone who is a high C is going to take about 30 hours. But in Sandler, I started remembering how we use the DISC assessment, and I wondered, how could I use this in marketing as well? Well, I learned something. AI understands personality archetypes. If it's already been trained in all of the information in the world that was available up into a certain amount of time, I guarantee you the first things it could learn and probably understand are personality archetypes. And so I started playing around with ChatGPT to see if I could get results out of it based on personality. So one thing I would recommend that you do is understand the different assessments that are out there. Personality assessments, there's everything DISC, there's MBTI Myers-Briggs, there's How to Fascinate, there's all different types of personality assessments that are out there. And what I do is I try to understand, who I am based on those personalities, so I know where the content needs to be coming from. And I try to understand the personalities of the audience that I'm trying to go after. And if I can know those things based on these assessments, I can create a content and message that resonates specifically with that audience. One thing to note, a lot of people like to get into MBTI, which, by the way, if you don't know what your Myers-Briggs is, you can take a free assessment at 16personalities.com. And it takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and it'll tell you what this thing is. And what you're going to learn is it's not really who you are, it's how you think and feel. So, but some people, when they take the MBTI, they kind of own it as their identity, and that's not what the purpose of it is. Identity is what you stand for and what you do. The personality is how you think and feel. It's how your brain works. Well, if you can craft a message that tickles the brain of the audience in a specific way, imagine what your conversion rates are going to be. Imagine if you could target very specific personalities. I would almost posit to say that in Myers-Briggs, there's 16 different types of personalities. You could essentially create a message for each of those individual personalities, test them out there in the marketplace and see which ones resonate with your offer the most, and then sync it all into those few. So that's my bit on personality-based marketing. Any thoughts on that?
That is, I think it's such a crucial lost thing sometimes of the people we're actually talking to, right? I mean, it's the same like you brought up Eugene Schwartz and desire, right? Which is this whole thing is like you got to speak to that core desire, really understanding the people. I think, personally at least, I was one of those who was seeing all those YouTube videos. Oh, you just need the Google ads. You just need that. You just need YouTube. You just need really, what are you saying in that to make it so much more powerful and hit so much harder? I mean, this is great. I don't know if you're familiar. There's also this software company called YOS. They your why within 5 minutes. It's this incredible thing, but there's 9 types. And I could see something like, talking to people based off their why, like what you're saying with AI being trained on it, could be something really powerful.
Absolutely. The first time I went to Traffic Conversion Summit, Ryan had invited Sally Hogshead to come and speak. And one of the things that I really liked about that was before Traffic Conversion Summit, everyone who had registered for it was given free access to her personality assessment, which is called How to Fascinate. And what was neat about that was when she got up on stage, she basically told the audience, these are your results. And, most of the marketers are like this, and some of the business owners are like this. And I thought that was really great. And so one day on ChatGPT, I put in I've taken all these different personality assessments. What if I give it all my personalities and then tell it to create content? And it was spot on. And I have a weird set of personality traits, but by using these archetypes, it's information that it already understands. So imagine if I tell it I'm an INFJ, just by using those 4 little letters, it knows thousands of articles about that personality type and can speak directly to it.
That is wild. So you're saying you uploaded all of your personality assessments into it to build a...
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So imagine if you knew personality-based marketing, if you started utilizing that, then you could go into this next part. When as marketers, the first step is to know who we help, right? And so when you're going through that process of developing the ideal ideal customer avatar, if you can infuse in, you've got your psychographics, which is how they're influenced. You got your demographics, which are statistics on how they are, but then you integrate personality with how they think and feel. Now you have this archetype of a person that you can write all the content specifically for them. And I know for myself, a lot of times I might create content, but I'm going to veer off. I like to think of I like chasing squirrels all the time. Sin knows this. I got to try to stay more focused. Well, AI is helping me stay focused, because if I have an outcome that I'm trying to get to, now I can bring that context all into one single context. The first thing that we all saw when AI came out was I could make 1,000 articles in a minute, right? But at what point does that start to dilute the messaging out there? And at what point does that just not bring any value? Well, it's the point you get started, to be honest with you. But what if instead of trying to create 1,000 of these different articles, what if you brought your context of what you're trying to bring into a single unified context? And so then once you have that as your baseline, as your engine, then you can create every piece of content for every kind of medium, and they all follow the same message. And so it comes down to understanding that audience. If you can decode the audience and you can put those things into ChatGPT or any of the tools that you're using, it's going to help you create that context. And then you need this business foundation. This is something that we have started trying to do with every one of our customers to create a business engine. And it answers the three important questions. Who do we help? How do we help them? And why does it matter? And if you think about it, what it is, it's the ICA, the before and after, and the CVJ. And you go through this process and you take it a little step further and you add in positioning, like, what is the personality of my business? Well, who is the personality we're trying to go after? And let's create a unified context so it all works together. And it's just one message that's going out there, no matter where you're at.
What I love about this, James, just kind of looking at it as you're going, is just the, I've been really focusing on that important factor of creating the predictable, awesome outcome type deal, right? And having that system to generate that. And that's what you're doing here, is those guardrails of, hey, within this, do what I need you to do, right? If it's like copywriting, I often think about when I start, how I wish I was like going through the desire checkpoints and John Benson's kind of litigator mindset and that thing, but not ever, you just roll off what you're doing in that time, really.
Yeah.
The question is more, you're really sending it into AI. So this is really awesome.
Yeah. Like for me, I've invested and I've probably spent over $1 million in research and knowledge about marketing frameworks, sales frameworks, all these things. If you've been around 25 years, it's not that hard to spend that much money on it, because one shiny object after another, right? But what if you could take all those frameworks that you spent money on and truly unlock them? Because the AI already knows the frameworks. The AI already knows how they all work. If you mix that up with your secret sauce, the context that you want to bring, and you combine it all in together, you're going to be able to actually make use of all those courses, all those frameworks, all the everything that you just bought and forgot about, right? That's the big value to me, is being able to unlock that stuff.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Cool. So now we're going to get into advanced prompting. And this only came about a few weeks ago. I was meeting up with a guy. He's a friend that I knew. He's really into yoga these days. And so I was like, cool, maybe he wants to meet up and talk about yoga. And he wanted to buy 3 websites from me. So obviously I was ready to take the conversation. So he walks in, and it's funny because he looks like this hippie guy. In fact, I was meeting with a friend beforehand, and the look that he gave this guy was like, this guy ain't got no money. You're wasting your time. You know how your friend gives you a glance and that's exactly what they're thinking. Well, this guy sat down and he showed me something that I'm going to show you here in a minute. And it just floored me, because I thought, I'm pretty good at prompting. Then he showed me his prompt and I was like, I am nothing. So here's something, if you really want to utilize AI and you want to get into prompting, here's some ideas. The first one is think like a programmer. So myself, God never graced me with the ability to write code in the back end, but I know how to present information and I know how to think like a programmer. I'm better suited as a scrum master than I am as an actual coder, because what that means is I have to understand where we are and what the outcome is going to be. And I think in terms of steps. What are the steps that are going to take to get me to that outcome? And each of those steps builds onto the next one. And so when you're writing prompts or you're talking with AI, you want to think about those steps and allow it to create the context through each step and then stack it over time. So think like a programmer. Think about ChatGPT is a language calculator. If you think of it like that, and then think of it that you're trying to basically manipulate software to give you an outcome, think like a programmer. Hope that makes sense. This is something new that I had never even considered before, and it's competency mapping. What you don't know is that there are already frameworks out there that have documented and codified different competencies that humans have. And like one of them I'm going to show you here in a minute is dream analysis. Could you even imagine being able to give AI the ability to analyze dreams? It works. And so there's these competency maps that are out there. And just like the personality traits, it actually gives them to you in 4-letter codes. And so in these prompts I'm going to show you here in a minute, there are competencies that are baked into the prompts that just show all the codes. And when ChatGPT reads those codes, it's able to pull all that together from 4 little letters, it's able to give you all the knowledge and information about that concept. And if you stack them all together, it's going to be able to really give you the human side of creating the content. The big problem right now is content that's being created is not human friendly. We can spot it, we can tell when it's been written. But if you start integrating competency mapping and personality mapping, you get a much different result. And this one really blew me away. This guy, his name's Mario, was like, ChatGPT understands emojis. And he was showing me in these prompts how he integrates emojis into the prompts. And I never considered doing that. And he said it can use these symbols to signify concepts that you're trying to put out there. And so I tried it out the other day. I went through my whole business foundation, and then I was trying to come up with custom instructions to put into ChatGPT so that it basically is my preamble every time I start a new chat. Well, my instructions were too long. And so I just simply said, turn this into a symbolic language, and it converted it into emojis and text. And I put those in there, and I'm going to show you an example live here in a minute. I put those in there and it understands it perfectly. So we know that the credit system for AI is one of the major limitations of being able to use it. So they try to create these bigger, abilities to do it. Not only can you simplify it with emojis, but you can also reseat concepts with emojis. You can make one emoji equal an entire concept. So when it shows again, it only uses that emoji instead of having to do the entire concept. So this right here is one of 3 prompts I'm going to share with you today. This was written by my friend Mario. You can see his email up there, mexicanamerican@gmail.com. And this one is a social media optimizer. Now, Mario is not a marketer. He's a programmer. And so I played with this thing, and it's okay. It's all right. But you can see it's written like a program, and it gives it a goal. It has competency maps there in the middle. And so you can see it's pulled in all these different competencies, and it gives it context. Something else it does, I don't know if you'll notice, but a lot of the vowels are removed. And that's because it utilizes sim language. And it pulls it out and decreases the amount of text just enough to where it can still understand these things. So this is a social media optimizer. This one is an SEO consultant. And this guy's got hundreds of these. Basically, he's like, what do you want to learn today? Now, the next step, we're not going to get into this in the talk today, but the next step is, wait, did anybody see Meta's thing the other day where they have the different AI personalities? This is what he's creating. Most of this stuff that he's doing is based off of Meta AI. And so you're going to be able to put these into Facebook Messenger and utilize it as a personal AI consultant. But what if you get a boardroom of all these AI consultants in one room and gets them all together, and you can just sit there and talk with a board of these different AIs? You can actually create agents where they go out and do the work for you and create other AI personalities in order to get you the result and the outcome that you're looking for. So here's an example of my custom instructions. And you can see like it took those, and it's saying like my demographics, 35 to 65 US, coaching and training. And and the visibility. So all these emojis, basically it took what I gave it and it converted them down into emojis. And it shows you when it's got the blue arrow, it's like, this is where they want to go. So the transformation is from overwhelmed to confident. You know, the vision and mission is, I don't even know what those mean because I don't remember what I wrote, but I can tell you that when I use these custom instructions, it's spot on. And so I use these in conjunction with this one. This is the third prompt that was given to me. And this is Carl Jung 2.0. And I was really happy that he gave me this one because I need therapy really bad. And it's been helping me. No, I'm just kidding. It knows everything there is to know about Myers-Briggs personality types. And so I use this to ask it questions. And I'm going to show you how I do that here in a minute. But before I do that, you notice the brains there in the middle? You see the bottom two where it says wrap all responses in brains? So what it does...
My mind is on, James. I think you're blowing everyone's minds here on the...
Okay, I'm sorry. It's too much. But what's cool is like the brains, every time it responds, it wraps it in the brains, because what it does is it reseats this engine again. So instead of having to continuously repeat yourself so it doesn't, what is the word where it goes off script and thinks crazy thoughts? Hallucinate. You know, hallucination is an issue. By the time you get a certain distance down the chat, you got to start all over again because it starts hallucinating. These emojis will reseat the instructions every time it responds with just that emoji, and it knows to continue on with the conversation. All right, little bit of change of pace. Let me pull up my I know Kung Fu. That's not what I'm sharing.
Does petroglyphs one day?
All right. So you guys can see my Carl Jung right here, right? Am I still sharing?
We can see it.
Okay, cool. All right, so just show you what I got going on. There's my custom instructions. And I put in the Carl Jung 2.0. So there's a whole lot of more stuff down here at the bottom too. And it says, greetings, I'm Carl Jung. Well, I've already talked to this thing enough. So I was like, hey, listen, I'm an INFJ and I like to overthink things. I'm overthinking my business plan. Can you help me? And it's like, yes, these are the things that you need to do. And I was like, tell me what the difference between personality and identity is. And so it goes through this whole thing. This isn't the part I want to show you yet. Let's see. Yes. So it's answering all these questions I have about psychographics, demographics, identity, and personality. But then I say, listen, I'm an INFJ. I want to sell coaching services to an ENTJ. That's a different Myers-Briggs personality type. I want you to generate a sales email along with a subject line, call to action, and PS. Don't mention our personality types, but speak directly to the ENTJ. Make it approaching and compelling. So it did. It starts off by saying that the ENTJ's preferences and needs is an art unto itself. And it knows exactly what the ENTJ needs in order for you to tickle its brain. So it writes a subject line that is specifically geared to that personality type. It pulls out the benefits that are important to that personality type. It gives a call to action that is written for that personality type, and even gives the PS on the back end for that personality type. And it knows that an ENTJ has an ambitious spirit and it needs to provide a compelling case for the value. So I said, okay, what are the most common types of Myers-Briggs? And ISFJ is one of the most common types. So I said, now write it for ISFJ. So it did. Completely different personality type. It changes the words that are being used because it needs to speak to that specific personalized attention, holistic approach, actionable steps, as opposed to strategic planning, accountability. These are things that are important to an ENTJ. These are things that are important to an ISFJ. So now I said, I want you to rewrite it for an ISTJ. That's the second most popular type. And so it did that too. And so you can see it changes the aspects and the benefits that are used. isn't this amazing? Because I know for me, like when I'm trying to fill out ICA, I'm like, you got to be as general as possible. There's 16 different personality types. And so I was like, let's write it for the 3 most popular types. With these 3 popular types, I'm likely to speak directly to 25 to 40% of an audience. And so it wrote it and it balanced it out, making sure to hit on different items that are going to be helpful to all 3 of those different types. And so I was curious. I was like, now what are the DISC types? Because I know in sales, DISC is a really good indicator of motivation. And so it kind of goes through and tells me the different DISC types. And I wanted it to rewrite it for a D type personality who is also one of those 3 types of personalities. So it understands the MBTIs. Now I want to get people who are motivated to move fast. So I'm doing this for me because I like to speak on stage, right? And so I want to speak to the largest amount of the audience, and I only want to really focus on the people who are going to move fast. And so it rewrote it, and now you can see words in here that are fast track, high impact, leadership, time efficient. Those are things that are really important to Ds, but they also speak to those common personality types. Once you have that down and like, you know that that's who the audience is, you can get kind of more creative with it. So I try to ask it what the percentage of those all 3 together are. They're like, there's absolutely no way that you could really figure that out. But for the most part, you're going to hit 30 to 40% of the audience. And so I asked it, what kind of business conferences would an ESTJ go to? And it lists out these specific types of conferences. And then I asked it, now I want to blend in with these ESTJs as an INFJ. How can I do that? It gives me tips on how to network with these types of people. And then down here, I said, I want you to give me the specific conferences I should be going to find these kinds of people. And there's a list of conferences that I need to go and get signed up to speak at, because the likelihood is that I'm going to be able to create a message that speaks directly to that audience. And so there's a long list of them. And then here's the coolest part. I gave it an outline of one of my signature talks. And I said, now I want you to change this to speak directly to that audience. And it did. And so it told me the things I needed to adjust in my speech in order to speak to that audience and be able to get the response of getting people to buy into coaching programs or whatever else it is that I'm trying to do.
It's so powerful.
It's just amazing, you know? And so I think, go back up here real quick. I think there's a huge opportunity here. You know, like we've been for, you know, we're kind of like those natives who really enjoyed that rock for the pigment that it can create. Right. But if somebody comes along and you've invested in all these frameworks and all these things, what if you can infuse that all together and really make that stuff work? I think that if you're in here, these types of things are important to you. Learning frameworks, learning things that have helped people. If you can take those things, you could pick off any framework off the shelf, plug it into a system like this, and be able to get results and be able to get outcomes for your clients. Yeah, imagine if you did that for your clients. So these are the things that we're focusing on. We're trying to get into established frameworks. We're trying to make use of all these frameworks that we've bought over the years. We're trying to precisely target our client avatar. And then these are kind of like examples of what we do. We want to start with a branding engine. We want to be able to take every one of our clients through a discovery session and then take those notes and put them into this AI and blow it up. Here's why that's important. I did a discovery session with one of my clients about a year ago, and we did it the old-fashioned way. We took out the worksheets, we filled out the worksheets, and then we went on from there. When ChatGPT became evident, the first thought I had was, can I create a CVJ with ChatGPT? And sure enough, I was able to. But then I figured out that I could put in the stuff that I had on my ICA worksheet into it, and I could expand it and make it better. I took that to my client and they said, this is actually not who our target audience is. So like doing it the old way, it was too generalized to where we wasted months focusing on the wrong target, but then we were able to adjust that and get it to work for the right target. So branding engine is like one of our top things that we want to try to take our people through. It's going to help you with speaking outlines. If you want to do podcasting, live streaming, online courses, book launches. We just did this for a book launch. The guy gave us his book. We had like 2 days to launch it. We put it into the system. We applied a framework to it. We were able to create the entire book launch and get it launched. And we sold like 60 books in 1 day because of that. So these things can work. Like I said, what this is really about is taking all this knowledge that you've been able to acquire and actually unlock it and do something with it. So I imagine there might be a way where we can share these slides. I'm also going to share links to those example prompts so that you can look at them, pick them apart. And I'm also going to tell you where to get the competency frameworks at so that you can go and attach those in there. Before we get into Q&A, hopefully we'll have time. Looks like we have about 12 minutes. I want to tell you why this mine was so important to me real quick. This picture right here is of the SS Berlin. There were ships like this that carried people from Europe over to the United States during the 1800s. A lot of immigrants came over on ships like this. This is the ship that my ancestors came over from Cornwall to the United States to specifically work at that mine. What happened in the 1800s was there were speculators that messed up the pricing of tin. They had mined tin and copper for 4,000 years. They were basically responsible for bringing in the Bronze Age to the world. And it just wasn't profitable for them to be able to mine tin anymore. And so the people of Cornwall actually went all over the world. There's so few people in Cornwall that there were only 4 people in the world that could speak the language anymore. But they came over on this ship. And in this picture, this is a group of the Cornish men who worked at the mine. And a couple of my ancestors are here on the front row in there. And one of them, sadly, lost his life in the mine. He was crushed by a 200-pound rock, which I found out later. Apparently, anybody who gets crushed in a mine, it's a 200-pound rock that crushes them, because I had another family member in another mine in another state also get crushed by a 200-pound rock. So I don't understand that. The little girl in this picture, that is my great-grandmother. She was born at the mine. She lived within 20 minutes of the mine, and she died within 20 minutes of the mine. She was 103 years old, and she was considered one of the historians of San Jose. But this is just one of the many stories of my family basically bringing Silicon Valley to life. I've got so many more stories, but this was a really big one that I hope that you got some value out of.
Major value in the chat. Everyone's also saying, I know you weren't seeing it, that people were, minds were being blown left and right seconds. So.
I hope it wasn't too much. Sin's going to give me some feedback after this, I'm sure. But I'm just so excited about it because it's like I said, it's like just unlocking it, unlocking this knowledge and being able to use what I consider a language calculator to really get those things running. It just excites me.
I've yet to see anyone prompt the way you just showed us, which is basically another language of prompting to the prompting. So, that was incredible. And I know there's a few questions that came up, and I think we are, a bit tight on time. I don't know how quickly you could do this, but let's see. So Mateo's asking, hey, James, would it be possible for you to show us how to create the custom instructions for ChatGPT? Just a quick walkthrough would be helpful. Might be, if it is something you think we can accomplish, that could be cool, I'm sure.
Oh, you talking about like how I created my custom instructions? Yes, I can actually show you that in about 2 minutes. So let me share my screen. I gave this process when I was when we did the AI bootcamp. And so I'll just kind of run through it really quick. Let's see, let me take this down, move this over. All right, I'm going to go through this really quick, so get prepared to write. You're going to notice right here, I've got a set of chats, all right? And this is the order in which I do the chats. I start off with a preamble. Now, I'm doing all this and testing it over and over and over again because eventually I'm going to get my buddy Mario to help me create a software that does this automatically. Did anybody go to my AI bootcamp thing? I talked about dime a dozen. I basically want to create dime a dozen for this process. So I start in and I tell it I give it what I call my my preamble. I tell it my name, what I am, a brief overview of who I do it for, and the kinds of things that I do. And I tell it to respond with a ... because I don't need it to respond to me yet. I'm still loading in information. So I give it some information here. So our target audience needs to be these people. Go ahead and start by creating a customer profile. So it does that. Then I take it through even more steps. I go through all the questions that are on the ICA deal. And so here's like, what are their 10 main goals for investing in this? What are their top challenges? What are their top 10 pain points? What are their, what do they value about being found online? What do they value about being, let's see, I asked that question twice. Not sure why I did that. What's their role in the purchase? What are their top 10 books? So I ask it all the same questions that are on the ICA deal. And then at the very end, I ask it to give me a summary. Then I go to the next step. I start off by putting in the same preamble again. And then I put in the summary. And now in this session, in this chat session, I'm going to be asking it questions about the before and after grid. So I simply say, I want to do a before and after grid. These are the things that I want to focus on. And I ask it, what is my ICA's before state? And so it gives me all the before stuff. I don't care about any of this. What I care about is a summary at the end. I ask it to give me the after state. Now give me a summary. And so here is a summary of the before and after. This takes like 5 seconds to put together. The next step, this is about product. And so again, I start with the preamble. Here's a summary for the ICA. Then here is the summary for the before and after state. And now I'm going to tell it about my products, the outcomes. We're going to learn about the benefits, and it's going to create all these statements for me. And then at the very end, I have it yet again create a summary that I drop into the next one. I think this was, which one was this? I don't remember which one. I think I did this one next. I've been working on it, but this is my positioning one. And so I get it to give me my brand messaging, my, all these different things. And then I pop it in there. What happened is at the end, that's what it was. This was supposed to be custom instructions. I was telling it to create custom instructions based off of all those deals, and they were too long. See how long they are? And so I said, make it a symbolic language. And then it just popped it out right there. So it took everything, it took all that knowledge, and then it just turned it into a symbolic language. And then that is what I popped into custom instructions. So all those steps, you're really just doing I think you guys are calling it ICP now, before and after, and then really getting their outcomes and benefits and all these other statements, and then combine all that to create a symbolic summary that you put into custom instructions.
I mean, incredible. I mean, this knowledge is just ridiculous. We are here on time. There's one quick question someone's asking. Are you speaking at TNC on this? Was a question.
Yeah, I asked to, I actually applied to speak at TNC. They said it wasn't good enough. That's what they said. So, but I will be speaking on this everywhere else. So we'll just say that.
Looking for you everywhere. So where does one, I mean, I guess, a question I have before we jump off is where can we, obviously learn to do more of what you were just showing us, because it's incredible.
Yeah, so we're actually kind of rebranding. We've shifted our focus. We're wanting to try to do more coaching on the front end, because I felt like over the years, for 25 years as a web designer, we've not really connected well with our customers. And with tools like this, we can speed that process up. But if you want to connect with me, the best place to find me at, it's going to be on LinkedIn. You can also see me in the DM Facebook group, and feel free to connect with me on Facebook if that's where you're at as well. But those are the places where I'm most active.
Awesome, James. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to the Agencies Talk today. We really hope the insights and discussion have been enlightening and will aid you navigating this world of marketing. So to stay ahead of the curve and implementing and innovate strategies discussed by joining our certified partner community, look for the link to do that in chat. And don't worry if you missed any part of the show. We will be posting this online shortly. You can catch up there, see all the cool stuff James was showing us again and again and again. I know I'm probably going to spend all night with it. So, keep evolving. Remember, the future of marketing is a conversation away. We are all here. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys around.
Thanks, everybody, for your time.